By 1542 we were established in London, my husband attending Parliament, me attending him. It was the most wondrous time. We lived at Charterhouse Yard, close to the great Carthusian monastery, which had been the most resistant during the dissolution. My sister Anne had married William Herbert, 1st Earl of Pembroke, an esquire to the King's body. I was so pleased for her. She had done rather well for herself and gained a position as lady-in-waiting at court. Having served all of Henry's wives, Queen Katherine, surviving the drama of Anne Boleyn, she had mourned her mistress Jane's untimely death, then the short-lived tenure of Anne of Cleves, alongside the young Kitty Howard, bizarrely finding herself attending her former colleague when she became Queen Katherine. I took every opportunity to make up for lost time with her and my brother William, though it has to be said my brother had attracted attention of the unwanted kind, his complex marital affairs being, well, complex. Thankfully, he did end his wild oats sowing days and began to settle down, which was just as well given that he became the Earl of Essex. I met so many dazzling people, including the funny and attractive Tom Seymour. He rather charmed me. But I found court life to be so incredibly exciting, as far from running a dull estate in the frozen north as it was possible to be. I was mesmerised by the fashion and opulent style. I wasted absolutely no time in acquiring the look. Then there was the music, the dancing, the poetry banquets. Life was very good indeed. Though crucially, I discovered like-minded people. I found immense satisfaction in lengthy religious debate. I felt alive. I felt where I was destined to be. Winter of that year, John's health deteriorated, and so I devoted my time to him. I cared for him over the cold winter months. It did not help his failing health. And then when February came, he died. Widowed for a second time. Grief is a most unwelcome companion, yet it appears all too often. John had bequeathed me the guardianship of my stepdaughter Margaret until she became of age. We were as close as mother and daughter, and so a great comfort to one another. John had provided for me well, leaving to me a clutch of properties and lands. This had an unexpected impact. Suddenly, I became a very rich and desirable proposition. At 31, perhaps a little mature for marriage by 16th century standards, yet, unbeknown to me, I still had childbearing years in me yet. Make no mistake, none of this was uppermost in my mind. I mourned my dear John. He and I had had a very, very affectionate accord. Indeed, I held on to his New Testament. It had never been far from his hand. I suppose it was the closest thing I had to him. It was inscribed with his name, so I vowed to keep it with me always. As is the way of these things, I needed to weigh up my prospects. I really had no desire to return north. What? And leave all the excitement of court life behind? Oh, I think not. My estates were being managed well enough without me, and there was sufficient income for Margaret, myself, and our dear loyal tenants. So I turned to my sister Anne to see if she could get me an inn at court. though she wasn't the only Parr who had friends in high places. Our mother's close friend, after all, was my late godmother, Henry's first wife, Queen Katherine. So I began by renewing my friendship with her daughter, the Lady Mary. Oh, the poor girl. She was plagued with ill health and missed her mother dearly. We soon became inseparable, and it came as no surprise that I was soon invited to join her household. My mastery of languages bore fruit as I added Spanish to my linguistic repertoire. Mary appreciating the gesture, it gave her the opportunity to speak as if to her mother. Despite there being just 4 years between us, I felt strongly maternal and protective of her. It was at this point my friendship with the dashing Thomas Seymour became romantic. I had found passion, a love unlike anything I had felt before. We became inseparable. I can think of no time I was happier. I should have known it was too good to last. I had not accounted for the king's eye having rested upon me. And so he began his suit. One thing you must learn very quickly at court is what Henry wants, Henry gets. Tom and I were shrewd enough to know that resistance was futile. I was unusual in that I was probably Henry's only sensible choice. Let me explain. He married first out of duty, a promise made to the late king, though arguably by the time he wed my godmother Catalina, I think it had become a love match. What followed were enticements and temptations, a parade of pretty young things thrust into his line of sight by ruthless and ambitious noble families, all vying for political gain. His one politically arranged marriage had been an abject disaster. But in me he had seen the perfect spouse. Young enough to provide him with a spare to go with the heir, attractive enough to whet his voracious appetite for a woman, though by this time he was more of a gelding than a stud. A proven track record as a stepmother, a level head, good at household management, intellectually on a par. So add amusing to my CV. Intellectually his equal, and with a trickle of blue blood. In essence, I was a perfect match, and he had not been coerced in any way to embark on my suit. Also, as a widow, I came without the ambiguity of my past love life, so no skeletons in my gaudy robe. Crucially, none of his advisors seemed to object to the match. Of course, privately, I was devastated to pass up the golden opportunity to marry for true love. Yet somehow I knew this was my destiny. So when Henry proposed, I accepted. What of Tom? He was given a promotion in Brussels.